Good afternoon, Moadim L'Simcha, and welcome to IBA News this Thursday, the 20th of October, the 4th day of Sukkot. I'm Elon Aslan-Levy, joining you live from Jerusalem. We open with the foiling of a plot by an Islamic Jihad cell, including Gazans illegally resident in Israel, to attack a wedding hall in Beersheba and kidnap and murder a soldier. Today, the Shin Bet security agency revealed that cell leader Mahmoud Abu Taha from Khan Yunis was arrested about a month ago when entering Israel with a merchant's permit. Abu Taha had established a terror cell comprising Palestinians who had snuck into Israel, including a 55-year-old waiter at the Narnia wedding hall, where the conspirators planned to hurl grenades on guests and mow them down with weapons. Abu Taha was also given thousands of shekels by Islamic Jihad to rent an apartment where they planned to bring a kidnapped soldier, murder him, and send his belongings to the Gaza Strip for negotiation purposes. They were indicted today at the Beersheba District Court. Security officials warned that the capture of the cell reveals the threat posed by Palestinians illegally resident in Israel. An Israeli-Arab couple who allegedly joined the Islamic State and fought in Iraq were recently arrested on their return to Israel. This, again according to the Shin Bet security agency, which identified the couple as Wissam and Sabrin Zabeidat from Sakhnin, who have 3 children under the age of 8 and were arrested at Ben Gurion Airport on the 22nd of September. The Shin Bet said the couple travelled to Turkey with their children to attend a family event and made contact there with another Israeli Arab who had joined ISIS in 2013. He helped the couple cross into Syria after confiscating their Israeli passports. Husband Wissam was then separated from his wife and sent to Iraq to undergo military and ideological training. The couple stayed in Mosul in Iraq, but due to the deteriorating situation there, decided to return to Israel. The two appeared before the Haifa District Court this morning, where they are facing charges of joining a terrorist organization and visiting an enemy state. In Aram, just northeast of Jerusalem, IDF forces shut down a printing press and confiscated equipment and inciting material early this morning. The army said the store printed leaflets praising the terrorist Musbah Abu Sabih, who perpetrated the Ammunition Hill shooting on the 9th of October in Jerusalem, murdering 2 Israelis, border police officer Yossi Kirma and grandmother Levana Melichi. Meanwhile, the army released footage last night showing an attempted terror attack on the eve of Yom Kippur. 4 Palestinian suspects were spotted approaching the security fence in the area of Nil In. The Palestinians opened fire at an IDF patrol dispatched to the site before fleeing the area in a waiting car. No one was injured in the attack. Security forces later arrested 5 suspects who admitted to plotting the attack and also revealed they had purchased weapons from an arms dealer. Did border police officers at the Tapuach junction in Samaria yesterday use excessive force when they shot and killed a 19-year-old Palestinian woman who attempted to stab them? Footage released of the incident shows the officers continuing to shoot the Palestinian woman while she was already lying on the ground, seemingly posing no threat at that point. Asked who's shooting, the officers are later heard replying, "All 4 of us." Security officials originally said the female terrorist from Asira Ashamalia ignored the officers' warning to halt and moved towards them with a knife when she was shot. According to police spokesman Mickey Rosenfeld, speaking to IBA News, the officers acted according to regulations in a life-threatening situation, shooting from a threat at just a few meters distance. The Palestinians are urging the United Nations Security Council to adopt a resolution to compel Israel to halt all settlement activity and to threaten it with consequences if it refuses to comply. Riyad Mansour, the Palestinian ambassador to the UN, argued yesterday at the Council that such action is imperative in realizing a just and lasting and comprehensive Palestinian-Israeli peace. Israel's UN ambassador Danny Danon, meanwhile, blasted the United Nations for meddling in Israeli politics, referring to the funding by 3 UN agencies of anti-occupation NGO B'Tselem, which participated in an informal Security Council meeting last week to call for international action against Israeli policies. At yesterday's session, Danon also took the UN body to task for the recent UNESCO resolution that denies Jewish connections to the Temple Mount and Western Wall, vowing that all attempts to cut us off from our homeland and our heritage will not succeed. Hundreds of women rallied outside the Prime Minister's residence in Jerusalem last night, calling on the Premier to resume peace talks with the Palestinians. The protest marked the culmination of a 2-week March of Hope which began in Rosh Hanikra. The march was organised by the NGO Women Wage Peace and included women of different ages, from grandmothers to teenagers from across the country and from both Arab and Jewish communities, as well as Palestinian women from the West Bank.
What is happening here tonight is that women say enough of the strife, of the war, of the hatred, of the separation between people, between women, we're not giving our kids to any political maneuvers anymore.
Now to the story of a young man who gave up on a promising career in American football in the United States to become an Israeli soldier. Ari O'Sullivan reports.
Meet Avi Rosenblum, a lone soldier from the United States. He was born to an African-American Christian family, but he was adopted when he was just 2 weeks old by a Jewish-American couple from California. He was raised as a Jew, had a bar mitzvah, but heard a calling and came to Israel and joined the army.
As soon as I got off the plane, I felt at home. I mean, I felt like I was missing. I thought I was missing something when I was here for the first 8 months. And I went back to America and I realized that I really, really missed it. And I had to move to Israel. I had to make Aliyah.
He was also motivated by the legacy of his cousin Yochanan Hilberg, a naval commander who fell on a mission in Lebanon. Now Avi hopes to follow in his footsteps and join the elite Navy unit.
My parents always talked about him and how much of a hero he was. And then 2 years ago, on his yahrzeit, I went to his memorial service in Nitzana. And it was not only hearing what my family says, but his Sevet, his commanders, really, it made it feel more and more that I needed to be here.
He graduates his Hebrew language course next week. The 23-year-old immigrant soldier could have had a promising football career, but chose to join the Israeli army instead. Yet even after fulfilling his duty, he's not sure where he'll be in 10 years' time.
I'd like to be in Israel, but, as long as I can do the army and see what happens after the army, I'd love to be here for the rest of my life.
Inspiring. Under a reinforced IDF presence, some 1,000 Jewish worshippers entered Nablus to pray at Joseph's tomb overnight. Violence erupted as IDF forces clashed with Palestinian stone throwers. No injuries were reported. Soldiers used tear gas and fired rubber bullets to disperse the Palestinian rioters. At the end of the prayer service, security forces escorted the worshippers safely out of Nablus. There was a sharp uptick in anti-Semitic abuse on Twitter in the first half of this year, with over 2.6 million anti-Semitic tweets in the year preceding July 2016. That's according to a new report by the Anti-Defamation League, which finds that at least 800 journalists were targeted with anti-Semitic abuse, with the top 10, all Jewish, receiving 83% of that total share. The ranking of most abused Jewish journalists was headed by the Daily Wire's Ben Shapiro and followed by Tablet's Yair Rosenberg, The Atlantic's Jeffrey Goldberg, CNN's Sally Cohn, and the New York Times' Jonathan Weissman. The report argues that there is evidence that a considerable number of these tweets originated with people identifying as Trump supporters, conservatives, or on the extreme right, and that this activity spiked in the wake of election-related news. The report suggests Donald Trump may have created an atmosphere in which such targeting arose, but stresses there is no evidence suggesting explicit encouragement. The report further estimates that 1,600 Twitter accounts were responsible for 68% of the anti-Semitic tweets against journalists, and that Twitter suspended 21% of these accounts in consequence. The recent reconciliation deal between Turkey and Israel, aimed at renewing and upgrading ties between the two countries, has failed to stop a Turkish court case against Israeli soldiers involved in the 2010 raid on the Turkish boat Mavi Marmara, which tried to breach the Israeli naval blockade of the Gaza Strip. During the raid, activists set upon the Israeli soldiers, leading to the deaths of 9 of the Turks and the injury of a number of Israeli commandos. Yesterday, the court in Istanbul announced it would postpone the trial until December. One of the key issues in the June agreement signed between Jerusalem and Ankara was that Turkey would drop all charges against members of Israel's security forces involved in the raid. In exchange, Jerusalem agreed to compensate the families of the Turkish victims, paying out $20 million.
We are strongly supporting the case here in Turkey, and our very firm plea to the court has been that they must continue with the case, that the so-called agreement between Israel and Turkey is not a treaty that is enforceable. It is unlawful under international law, under the European Convention on Human Rights, and under Turkish law, and that the criminal case against those who are accused must continue at all costs.
Will the new Public Broadcasting Corporation open as scheduled on the 1st of January? Not so fast. The Prime Minister has met with the director of the Israel Broadcasting Authority to instruct him to prepare to continue operations as normal, according to a report in The Marker, which says the Premier expects the new corporation to be cancelled altogether, further to new legislation being advanced by Coalition Chairman David Bitan. MK Bitan argues cancelling the corporation could save the state over 2 billion shekels over 2 years, but Kulanu MK Roy Folkman says the effort is all about controlling public broadcasting, not cost efficiency. Separately, Haaretz reports that an unnamed cabinet minister plans to present a proposal next week to abort the new corporation, setting up a single regulator to include Army radio, educational television, and the current broadcasting authority instead. As it stands, IBA is supposed to close in favour of the new body on the 1st of April 2017, but that could yet be brought forward to the 1st of January. Excavations in Jerusalem have revealed a glimpse of the Roman conquest of the city during the Great Revolt 2,000 years ago. Digs in the Russian compound for a new Bezalel Art College campus have unearthed an outer wall and the tower of the city during the Second Temple period. Archaeologists uncovered scores of ballista and sling stones that the Roman legions led by Titus used to breach the wall in the year 70 AD. The discovery offers physical testament to the fierce battle described by Jewish Roman historian Josephus, which later led to the fall of the city and destruction of the Second Temple. In Tel Aviv tomorrow, be prepared for major traffic headaches as the biggest bike riding event in the country takes place around the entire city. Some 30,000 cyclists and rollerbladers are expected to participate in the Sovev Turki along a variety of routes from 8 to 60 kilometers. The main Ayalon highway will be shut from 5:30 a.m. until 1 o'clock p.m., as will Rokach Boulevard, Hayalkon Street, and other major roads. In finance, the shekel is down today and the stock market is mixed, but ends the week slightly up. In weather, tomorrow should be partly cloudy with no significant change in temperatures. It will remain stable throughout the weekend. And that's all for today and this week. We'll be back on Sunday at the same time on Erev Simchat Torah for all the top stories. But for now, we leave you with footage of the first night of Simchat Bet HaShoeva celebrations at Toldos Aaron in Mea Shearim. Shabbat Shalom and Chag Sameach.